right. Good morning. Hey, Brenda, I get to say good morning this time because
I
it's
know.
not noon. I'm going to flex that as much as I can. Good morning, all you beautiful people who are here so bright and early in the morning. Thank you for being with us. You know the drill. We're going to start this morning off with a special thank you to our top sponsors, one of them being FPEA. We thank you for being with us and sponsoring us through all of these live streams and podcasts. If you haven't secured your booth for FPEA, please go ahead and do so. Also, as a very quick this morning, I just want to kind of roll through one little message real quick. A lot of people ask, what is HEF? Or HEF gets thrown around and people don't know. It's the Home Education Foundation, and we are the voice in the capital for parents who feel deep down that it's their duty and responsibility to educate their children. We build a community that facilitates collaboration and helps spread information about their rights so that they can leverage that knowledge to move confident in their freedoms and choices and educate their children. And ultimately, we also lobby to protect those freedoms. And this morning, we have a very special guest with us. I'll go ahead and display it. Now we're all here. We're all here live. We can see all the faces this time, which is great. And yes, our special guest this morning is Speaker of the House, Paul Renner. We're sorry that you weren't able to join us yesterday, but we're so glad that you were able to be with us today. And if for those of you who may not know him, he was commander in the U.S. Navy. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, Operation Desert Storm, in Operation Enduring Freedom. He's got a lot of things under his belt. We're curious to know why anyone, as Brenda says, would want to be Speaker of the House. It's such a task. I think that a lot of us sitting at home, eating our popcorn, watching television, don't always know about the sacrifices that it takes. Until I watch the My Florida channel and I see things running over by 4 hours, thinking, "Wow, do these people ever get to go home and see their children?" And I'm pretty thankful of the work that you do. But tell us a little bit more about what it was that drew you into being Speaker of the House and kind of what your aims and goals are.
Well, the role of speaker is one that others select, not me, but I was drawn into politics just by a desire to make sure that the principles that I think a lot of your membership stand for are implemented in our state capital. And we're proud to have really accomplished quite a lot during my tenure and the tenure of those of my classmates. We were from the 2016 class, we're 8-year term limited, and so we finish out this November, and we're pretty proud of what we've done. And a top priority of the House last year was our universal choice bill, which created the PEP counts. And of course, it was a 20,000 person cap to start to kind of let us ease into it a little bit, and then it'll grow by 40,000 next year. And so we're excited about that growth. Obviously, we are looking at, how can we make things smoother? How can we make things better? Get payments out faster. So in our bill, we've looked at trying to do that, dealing with some children who have unique abilities, making sure there's no wait list there. And then, we were looking at some of the accountability measures just based on some reports we were getting. But the news I wanted to share with you today is that we're going to go ahead and take it another year with the purchasing handbook and make sure that we can try to walk before we run and see if that doesn't work for us. I think with all the stuff going on with the SFOs, that wasn't really in play like it might have been last year. So we're going to kind of keep the status quo a little bit where we were, and let things play out and make sure that we're getting money to parents that need it for educational purposes, and go from there. So I'm excited to announce that and take any questions you have. I know Senator Grawl was with you yesterday on HB1 and did a great job.
She did fantastic
this year with respect to social media platforms and protecting kids from pornography online.
Absolutely. And thank you for the way that you said that. A quick question I do have, because I know our community and I know that they're going to want to hear specific things. So what you're saying in HB1403 is that the lines that deal with the instructional materials as equipment, limiting those back to the 4 core subjects, that's going to be put off the table for this year.
Right, and I don't know if the DOE will be kind of overseeing as they do on the purchasing handbook. So that would that would be the kind of the governing, source to figure out what's in or out on expenditures, and not anything we're going to put in the bill this year. There might be some, little light language, but it won't be the language we have. We're getting that out of that bill.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you for that, because it seemed for a long time that, we had concerns and they weren't being heard, but it's really nice to know that we are heard, and it's really nice to know that you take action on those things when we are heard, and we do appreciate that. That means a lot to us. For those also sitting in the back in our community, they might not know how that's going to happen. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit on what it will look like as we move forward? We've been through all the committees. Educate a little bit. What does that look like as the process moves forward?
Well, I mean, in the end, we wind up putting in an amendment, whether that's a floor amendment or the amendment takes place in the House. And so the bills have to line up and be exactly the same before it's passed by both houses, and the governor has to review it and sign it or veto it. But I think everybody that we've worked with is comfortable with this change. So I don't anticipate any hiccups at this point, either House, Senate, or governor, on that, and so it was a good outcome, and we are listening all the way through, but where we start out sometimes is to generate a conversation, and we keep things in play at some point, but in the meantime we are listening, and so some of the stuff I've described has kind of been happening over the last 2 or 3 weeks, really, and had some good meetings over the last 3 or 4 weeks to get in a posture where we could be comfortable what we're doing soon on this bill.
Well, thank you very much. Brenda, is there anything you'd like to say or add?
No, I just appreciate what you're doing and the conservative positions you've taken in protecting our children. And we are also concerned about not having any fraud in this program, because it is a tremendous program for many parents who couldn't afford what they needed to educate their children. We're grateful for the scholarship. That was a big step for you and for Florida. And so we just wanted to express our gratitude and thank you so much for hearing our concerns on the equipment language. That was really a big issue for our folks. And I think we will be able to work things out going forward and keep it a good program in Florida.
Great to be with you, Brendan. Let me just say congratulations on your service of 40 years to this organization and homeschoolers. You were fighting for homeschoolers before it was cool, and it's really kind of taken off even after COVID in a big way, as we all know. And I think that's why these choice programs are so important, and the PEP program is so important to provide all the tools and resources that parents do need to get the maximum education for their kids. And my kids are too young right now. I've got one in pre-K 3, but I've got an about to be 2-year-old. But many friends who are homeschoolers, we may go that route ourselves, and so it's critically important that we have all those resources for our parents and students here in Florida.
Absolutely.
Well, it's an adventure. It's quite an adventure, but I wouldn't trade one day with homeschooling my kids for anything else. It just love being with them and teaching them and watching them learn. It's just so exciting. So we would certainly welcome you to our ranks.
All right. Sounds
I
good.
have one final question for you. On HB1, is there anything that you'd like to say or put out there for parents?
Sure, and I know Senator Grawl kind of covered the gamut of questions, but this is one of those things that if you believe, as I do, obviously part of that bill involves child pornography, and which is not speech under the First Amendment, but the social platforms have really morphed into something in some ways that has contents that's worse in this sense. Is if a child is trying to find their way onto a pornography site, they've got to take certain steps and searches and, say that they're over 18, whether they're over 18 or not, and try to game that age verification process. But in the case of social media, you have people who are bad actors, who are sexual predators, who are looking for our kids, who will use algorithms that these social media platforms employ to find kids and find victims. So the public safety community, all of the Sheriff's Association, our prosecutors, all of our police, chiefs of police, FOP, PBA, have all come out enthusiastically behind the bill because of the human trafficking element, because of the juvenile on juvenile crime that happens. And then beyond that, the mental health crime. We see a very direct correlation with the growth of social media and young people, and especially girls, that the more time they spend online, the worse it gets in terms of depression, in terms of self-harm, and even contemplating and acting on thoughts of suicide. And so we are at a place, I believe, that falls into that category of things like smoking, drinking, getting married, driving a car, that you have to be a certain age, and we don't give parental opt-out for that. We really just need to relieve parents from the burden of that pressure of saying, don't make me the kid that nobody, that's unlike anybody else, and have some safe time for kids to be kids and protect childhood during this time, so that that time they would spend online and those influences from a stranger's algorithm are controlled by mom and dad. Moms and dads have the primary role to raise their kids and influence their kids, period, all stop. That is fundamental to what I believe and what I know the people on this call believe. And our bill, I believe, is the greatest thing we can do to empower parents to control what their kids can and can't do. Now, in the bill, you have a means by which it's based on accounts. We're not going to turn our kids over to these algorithms and addictive features and ability to exchange, content and videos and whatnot with strangers. But we do allow, under the bill, implicit in the bill would be the opportunity, if you want to sell something online or whatnot, to get on mom or dad's account. But remember, the algorithms there are directed to mom and dad, and you would see what's coming back and be able to ask, wait a minute, who's this trying to contact you? And so there's still room for that kind of thing in a light way that I believe is true parental supervision. It's the difference between letting your kid, your 15-year-old, have a glass of wine at the table, which is not legal. And when they ask for the second or third glass, you tell them to go to bed, and just telling them, allowing them to go buy a bottle of liquor at the liquor store and drink it with their friends without your supervision. So we can't let these kids on these addictive platforms that have been designed to keep them online and monetize our kids. And that's fundamentally what this bill is all about. We are, Senator Grawl, there's no bigger champion for parental rights than she is, or the other sponsors of this bill, or the House and Senate for that matter. We've led the nation on parental rights writ large, to include homeschooling. And so we take a backseat to no one, but we do believe that this is in that category of harms that are so great, with the addictiveness, the child brain development issues, and the inability to handle that, and the inability of, frankly, of parents to truly supervise what's happening when these algorithms are directing them rather than mom or dad. So I appreciate any support you can give us as we move through this process.
Absolutely. We've got comments coming in. I'll read a couple, and then I think Crystal and Brenda both, had something they wanted to say real quick. Someone says, as a Navy brat my entire life, thank you, Senator Renner, for your service and continuing the service at the state level. I mean, a lot of these are thank you, Speaker Renner. Thank you for all your work. I could go on and on. Thank you. Thank you, amen, and thank you.
Well, if you want to give some thank yous, let me turn the phone around, because my dear friend and my colleague, our Education Secretary, Ralph Massullo, is sitting across from me here at this outdoor spot. And he really deserves a lot more credit than I do. Under his tenure, I will say that there's been more done, in my opinion, for the needs of K-12 education than we've seen in a long, long time. We've really done some transformative things, and that's credit to him. And so I want to turn the phone around, if I can, and let him say a few words, and you guys can ask him questions too while I take a sip of my coffee, and then I'll come back in.
Okay.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you all are doing well, and we appreciate all your hard work that you're doing for our homeschoolers and PEP. And Speaker's modest. It's under his tutelage and leadership that we've worked through so many different policy initiatives that really put the role of education in the hands of the children and parents, and taken it out of the institution, so to speak, particularly those institutions that tend to be more driven through unions or whatever the case might be.
Well,
and
thank you.
I wanted to say this on HB1, and I know the speaker has a passion for it, and oftentimes when you have a passion, it drives you to the point where you're doing things that are extremely good, because you're using energies and mental abilities that you have that oftentimes it's hard to reach down and get. But when we look at technology, and we embrace technology a lot here in Florida, particularly in the house. When we look at technology, we have to be aware that sometimes things in technology have issues, particularly with children, given their development, particularly in those critical ages of 10 to 15. And if you recall back in the beginning of the 19th century, no one needed a age-restricted driver's license to drive a horse and buggy. But when the first cars came out, kids were driving those cars. In 1909, Pennsylvania was the first state to have a driver's license that was age restricted. But it took almost 47 years for the last state, which was, I believe, South Dakota, to have an age restricted driver's license. Because we recognized, not that we were trying to prevent people from driving, but we recognized that particular technology was dangerous for children. And it's the same thing we do here today with HB1. You know, you can't go into a liquor store as a parent and say, oh, my 12-year-old, they can buy liquor and I'll just sign this sheet for them. You can't go in a convenience store and say, my 14-year-old can buy cigarettes, let me sign a sheet that you have for them and give them permission. Because we recognize that those things are harmful for kids. And it's the same thing here.
Absolutely. Those are great points. We hit a lot of those points yesterday on the Q&A that we did with Senator Grohl, and then we have sent that Q&A video out to as many places and outlets and groups and families as we could to help them hear those fine points. So thank you for echoing them here. We're going to share this video as well. So we really appreciate hearing you say those things.
You're very welcome. I'm going to turn it back over to the speaker now. Hope you all have a great morning, and thank you again for all your hard work for Florida.
You too, sir. All right, Crystal, you're up.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you again on behalf of all the parents in our community, because I moderate the forum and I do a lot of the social media interactions with parents, and we are all just so grateful that there are people like you in place who are hearing our concerns and are protecting our freedoms and rights as parents. So just thank you again for what you do.
Yeah, and I'll extend those thanks out to all the other colleagues of mine and Chair Massullo's. There's a lot of people, 160 members of the House and Senate. It's truly a team effort, and a lot of people who aren't on this call deserve those thanks. We don't need it, but we appreciate it, and we're happy to do it because we believe what you believe, and we're going to keep pushing in the right direction.
Yeah, I said this in one of my moments where I was able to testify. I think that you all do a thankless job in many ways. We're very quick to come to you when there's a fire or a problem, and we want your help, but it's oftentimes that it goes unnoticed or unthanked, at least on the other end around. So we definitely want to say thank you. And Brenda, you had something you wanted to say as well.
Well, I was going back to HB1. I was really not aware of the addictive nature of social media. I see it, but I didn't realize there were algorithms in the programs that cause kids to be addictive, just like sugar and things like that in your diet, that are causing kids to be drawn back into that. And I just appreciate the research and the depth of understanding that y'all come to in developing this bill, and how important it is really to protect parents as well as kids, because most of us are not techies. And what y'all have put in this bill, Jason laughs because I'm really not a techie, it has been amazing to me, and we just really appreciate it. The other thing I wanted to say is this has been an unusual session because there were not committee meetings 2 months ahead of the session. They were just sort of thrown into the session, which is good for those of you who have to give up your personal time and come to Tallahassee. And it's hard work, but it's also made it super intense during the session. And the fact that you've heard our concerns, even through the committee meetings and the process, we just can't thank you enough for taking this language out of the bill this year, and let's work on it next year. We just really do appreciate it.
That. Yes.
Well, it's great to see you guys. Have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there we go. Let me move the nameplates around a little bit, and we're free to close. Is that what they say in the committee meetings? You're free to close on your bill. Brenda, you're free to close on the call.
I just feel that the people who are listening to us, some of them are very knowledgeable about the process, some are not, and we don't see any language yet in the bill. These things take time, and we're moving right along. But as he said, there will be an amendment, and that amendment is going to take the line out of the bill through an amendment to allow the bill to be as it was prior to putting in the equipment language. So parents for the upcoming year will be eligible to purchase art supplies, and they will be able to buy musical instruments. How we work it with the DOE, we will consider all of the things that have been taken into consideration. There may be some additional prohibitions on purchases coming forward, because they want to make sure that there isn't any kind of fraud in these programs where parents are doing things that would cause the program to be under attack by the media. So we've had this in the past with the FESUA, and people were really concerned about it. But the fact that we'll have DOE, who is all about choice, monitoring this bill, I'm not concerned at all. We didn't give them more authority than they had before. We have not expanded anything from the way it was passed. So I feel very confident, given another year, that we will be able to work out any kind of problems that people thought might be happening, and prove the track record. Parents are being responsible with the money that the state has given them to spend on their child's education. So I am excited and thrilled that we were heard, and that, you know, our recommendations were considered. And actually it was better than what we thought, because Jason and Crystal and I came up with quite a few alternatives to the language that was in there. But in the end, just taking it out was the best we could have asked for.
Yeah, and we look forward to workshopping over this next year the language, and working with them to find the right words that deal with some of they still have concerns, so deal with those concerns effectively. Anything else?
No, I thank you. I thank you for setting this up so early. It's when the speaker had a slot, and thank yous, as you've mentioned on this live stream in the past, thanking them for their service, and thanking them for hearing our concerns, and just letting them know how much we appreciate their time and effort in the legislature. I wouldn't want to do the job.
Yeah.
Everybody's demanding you on so many different subjects, and they have to know, you know, everything from labor law to environmental law and things I don't even engage in, but they sit on committees and have to make decisions on those kinds of issues, and it's a hard job. And the one thing I would like to say again is, one way you can thank your legislators is investing some of your time helping them get reelected if you like the candidates. I've found over the years that if a Democrat agrees with what the Republicans are pushing, then go work in the Democrat camp. We have a lot of legislators who are registered Democrats, and they're going to be elected in their district because the district lines are drawn to give the minorities, whether it's, you know, just all the minorities, an opportunity to get a representative here in the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And so they try to create the balance of the population in the state in the legislature, because it is a representative form of government, and they're there to represent their people. But we've been able to find agreement on every bill that I have pushed since 1985, when my husband was alive. But we'd have unanimous support, but it takes education. And the way you can educate your representatives or senators the best is to get to know them at home, and you can invest in their campaign, even though you may not have dollars to give. You have time, you have children that are amazing representatives of our community. You saw that in the committee meeting where we had Crystal and what was the other lady's name? I'm sorry, I just had.
We've had others. We've had Andrea was there, and Trish.
That brought their kids, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids make such a difference because their faces, and it happens at home when they're running for campaigns. And we're going to do a program on how to get your favorite person elected. But kids have made the difference. And so they see what you're doing, why you're doing it, and meeting the children just is so impressive to them because our kids are well behaved. They can talk to adults. They're engaged in what's going on. And I just feel like going forward, a thank you note to them and an email would be probably the best at this time of year because they are so incredibly busy. But even a handwritten note mailed to their district office is a great way to thank them. And then gear up for the campaigns coming up this fall and get involved in walking the districts with them and get to know them. That would be my last comment. I've met a lot of nice people walking campaigns.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's how you and I got connected, not because we walked together, but because you walked with someone else. And years down the road, they said, hey, and introduced us.
Yes.
So you never know those connections.
Some of my best friends have been developed through walking campaigns.
Well, without further ado, we're going to turn all of y'all loose to get back to your mornings. We thank you for being with us. This is a Tuesday morning. I usually say Mondays, so I'm having to watch all of my words. But thank you guys very much for being with us this morning. We hope that you're as excited as we are about what was announced, and if you want to share it through any of the groups, go ahead. I'm also going to post it on YouTube if that makes it easier to share that link. I know Facebook links can be huge, so either way that it goes, we loved seeing you here this morning and being here for this announcement, and we hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Tuesday or week or school year. Whatever it is. Thank you guys.
Watch the forum. We're going to be putting out when there's an amendment filed and keep you up to date as it progresses through the system.
Absolutely.